Okay, so technically this is Rambam Bekius, okay, but we have a little bit more to do with the Aruch Shulchan from last time. So quick recap, okay, if I asked you point blank based on last week on your recollection, what is the concept of a tenth of like Maaser according to the Rambam? Like halachically, what is or what's its halachic like nature or structure? Yeah.
Just from the text, what were you have when the person asks?
Right. So the mitzvah of tzedakah is what is to give when the person asks, right? So, but where does a tenth come in though?
Derabanan.
Right. So the word, first of all, where's the Rambam say it though? Because he doesn't explicitly say it's derabanan. Yeah. Right here.
It's like what the mad guy gets.
Yeah, it's the middle. He says the middle amount is a tenth, maximum is a fifth, and then the minimal amount. Did I say the minimal amount the first time? I meant the normal amount, middle amount is the tenth, maximum amount is a fifth, and then the minimal amount is the 2.8 grams of silver per year, right? But then it's unclear from the Rambam, like how you reconcile that with Deah Machshavah Lab, with giving the poor person what he needs. So that's. And where's the minimal amount come from also, right? And what's this thing of a year if the whole chiyuv tzedakah is whenever the guy asks you? So that's where the Aruch Shulchan came in and said that he holds that d'oraisa, it's just to give whatever the poor person needs, okay? But mid'Rabbanan, the Rabbanan had to put a cap on that because people were giving away too much. And they said there's three guidelines. There's a tenth, which is the normal amount, and then a fifth, which is the maximum amount unless you're on your deathbed, in which case you could give up to half. Because then you're splitting it with the inheritors, and then there's the minimal amount, okay? And he says that that's derabanan, okay?
So
yeah.
Talking about tzedakah, right?
Tzedakah, yeah. Sorry, I forgot to say the context is tzedakah. Yeah.
Just so that it's separate from Maaser, right?
And so that's what I want to talk about today. Okay, so he did say it's separate from Maaser because what is actual Maaser? A tenth of what? Produce. Okay, right. So he said it's different. Now, this is one of these things. So a side point here. I don't know if you have. Okay, we all have gaps in our knowledge. Okay, but I think that because I only converted when I was in 11th grade, there's certain things that people talk about as if it is unanimously a thing that I kind of like was misled into thinking that it's unanimously a thing. And then only later on found out that it's not unanimously a thing. And one of those things is Maaser. Like you have to give 10% of your, like Maaser Kesafim, like giving 10% of your income. Okay. So this is what the Aruch Shulchan clarifies today. He says like this. Well, according to what we explained, which we just recapped, Hadavar Muchra Kedas HaGedolim HaSovrim de Maaser Kesafim Ein Lehem Shum Ikar Min Torah. Okay, so he says it's clear, like the opinion of the Gedolim, I don't know which Gedolim he's talking about, that who hold that Maaser of money has no foundation in the Torah. Okay, so he says so that's the Bach and the Pnei Yehoshua. Okay, I guess that's the Gedolim. Okay, I guess contemporary Gedolim. Some, the Taz, want to bring a proof from here that Maaser Kesafim is from the Torah. And he says, Utumihani, I'm astounded by this. According to what we explained, Adraba, Raya Mikan Lahefech. It's the exact opposite. Okay, how so? He says, the essential obligation from the Torah is to give the person whatever he needs. Okay. And a tenth or a fifth, that's just a takana from the Rabbanan. And if you're going to say, if you're going to say that from the Torah, you're obligated to give him what he needs, then you could say, how did the Rabbanan come along and put a cap at a fifth, even if that doesn't take care of his needs? That's not a problem. In addition to what we read last week, this is also a halacha d'oraisa that you're not supposed to give all your money to tzedakah. So I don't really know halachas of erechin and haramim, but apparently if you try to designate all your stuff for like hekdesh or whatever, all of your stuff, then it doesn't work. Okay, double ice backfire. How do we know this? Because the Rabbanan get a drasha from everything that you own, v'lo kol asher lo, but not everything that you own. Ayin sham. V'chein kasaf Rambam Hilchos Erechin L'Olam Al Lo Yakish Adam Kol Nechasav. Rambam says a person shouldn't consecrate all of his possessions. But Osekin over Al Das HaKasuv, someone who does this violates the pasuk. Sharihu Omer Mikol Asher Lo V'Lo Kol Asher Lo. V'Inze Chasidus El Shtus. That's not piety, that's idiocy. The Rambam says if you're going to spend money on mitzvos, don't do more than a fifth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so I was going to say until
Yeah.
that line, it wasn't really a great proof because I guess it didn't hektish, not didn't sit up.
Right, correct. Yeah.
I guess
You're
that
right. He's
line-
expanding it. Yeah. So from the Torah, it's usher to give away all your possessions, and so you need a shear. And the Chachamim base their shear off the deraisa, which is a tenth and a fifth from you pre-existing deraisa shearing, but they applied it to tzedakah. Mishun dmitavua haya Maaser rishon v'od Maaser echad o Maaser sheni o Maaser ani. Okay, they're basing it off of the maestros. Las muchuha ha dekra dechol asher titin li v'gomer. To hold the tikkun rabbanan kain deraisa tikkun kain nearly bar. Veneerly dilpidion shvuim rashai lahosif al chomesh. If you're redeeming captives, then you can spend more than a fifth. V'chein l're'evim utzmeim v'kiyotzapen, and people who are like in lives in danger through starvation or thirst. But ever sheish b'zeh pikuach nefashos muchuya b'zeh lahosif, and you're obligated to go
I
more.
thought he was going to bring a proof for the fact that if you want to do a pidyon with hektish,
Yeah.
right, you have to pay an extra fifth.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because hektish only makes you pay an extra fifth. Then, like you see it, like that's a cap. But I guess
That would be nice, but no, he's saying
It's not
pidyon
right,
shvuim. Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to answer a question that I said we weren't going to answer, but he answers it so clearly that I was like, okay, let's do it. Which is how much of your income do you have to give, and how do you calculate that? Okay. Now I'm not going to go into all the details, but he says like this. Umavur b'Yushalmi the Pa'am Rishon. So we read this last week, not in this halacha. It says in the Yerushalmi that the first time you give nosnin hamaiser or hachomish me'akeren, you give the 10th or the 5th from the principal amount, from your net worth. Okay. The ahrokach me'aravach. And then from then on, you do it from how much you profit. Okay. V'hadavar pashu she'ha'av hanosin libno ulevito nidunya o shar matanos. So it's obvious that if a father gives to a son or daughter a gift or some other type of like wedding gift or some other gift, afal gav she'ha'av hifrish kvar meiser min mamono, even if the father already gave a tenth of his amount, mikol makom kishabal yadam, once you, the son or the daughter, get it, you need to separate your own fifth or your own tenth.
You being the child.
You being the child, and then you go based on the profit. Okay. Now, why does he have to tell you that? So let's say I. Here's an example. Okay. Let's say I am a father, right, and I have $1,000. Okay, and I separate $100. For tzedakah, and so I have 900 left, and then I give the 900 to my son, right? So the son can't say, "Oh, my dad already separated Maaser from that, so I don't have to give anything." No, for the son, it restarts.
It's like Maaser Shane. No, it's like
Hold on, what do we say, Chaim? Yeah, the son hasn't done it yet, right? So in other words, the son can't like say that, oh, my father already gave it, so this money is already tithed, right? Yeah. So we didn't know. We said like, is it when you first start working? Is it like, we didn't really know when the Karen starts. Yeah. So we have to figure that out. But okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like saying, oh, I got money from someone, from my boss who did Maaser on the money that he had.
Right.
And then I got it. And
Right. So but why? Right. But where's that havamina come from? You were on the right track.
Where does that come?
That is the
That
thing.
isn't in the
Yeah, but where's that come from though? From Maaser, right? So in Maaser, you do speak of this, of has this produce been tithed already? Like we do treat it, like, yeah, there's different people who have to give different amounts from that, but like, that's what he's going to say in a second. He says, and then you could go from the profit. Let's say you inherit money from your father or other relatives, even if they separated Maaser, you need to separate again. And that's what the Gedolim hold. Even though by Maaser Tevua it's not like that. We explained that that's for a different reason. Okay, so that it does work like that. I don't know enough to say what those halachos are. Yeah. Okay. Then he says, and this part is significant, especially for me when I have people over for Shabbos, maybe. Okay, you count. So this answers another one of our questions. Not why we care about the year, but when. Is you calculate from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah your income.
So
yeah.
Does that mean you don't know
until the end?
Yeah, to the end.
I think so. Until the end of the year, and then you go based just like taxes, right?
Then you give a lump sum then. So the chiyuv.
Well, I don't know if
it's a one-time thing.
Oh, you're talking about for the first year? Well, for the first year, let's say it's your first year working.
Yeah.
So you add up, you wait until the Rosh Hashanah, and you take everything that you added, and then you take a tenth from that.
Okay, but you don't.
And then the next year, it's from the profit that you accrue each.
Okay, but you don't need to pay that off before the next Rosh Hashanah starts, right?
I don't think he's giving a. Oh, okay.
There's
I don't think
deadline. I'm saying
that's a good question.
This is a fund
that I don't know.
My Aniyim.
Right, that I don't know.
Okay.
That he's not addressing that.
Because that seems a little difficult. Because
it
goes against some of the things in Hilchos Deah, and
Okay, I don't know. Yeah. Let's.
Oh, because if you're supposed to add it all up at the end and then pay it like taxes and just lump sum it all, then at least for insofar as doing it many times, you're not going to be able to get to do that many times.
Yeah, he's not saying how you give it. He's saying how you calculate it. Yeah. Okay. So he says, "V'im b'shana zo hayu lo asakim sheyesh sheharevach behem." Sorry, sheharviach behem. V'yesh shehifsid behem. So if let's say you had certain business ventures in that year that some you profited from and some you lost from, oseh cheshbon klali, you make an overall calculation, revach, and the net profit that you have, nosin me eser Maaser letzedakah. You give a tenth of that to tzedakah, but it gets better. Uvichlal revach, and included in the profit, nechshav rak harevach hanaki. You only count the clean profit. There's probably a financial term for clean profit, but he'll explain what he means. V'chol hahotzal shaylo al ha'esek, all of the expenditures that you did going into the business. Okay. Even the travel expenses, okay, and your food expenses that you took. Let's say you go to you go to China, right? We're not going to do business with China. Let's say you go to the UAE, right? And you take the plane ticket and all the kosher food you buy, so you can deduct that from the total amount. Hakol nechshav al hotzos ha'esek. All of those are included in the expenditures for the business. Umenake hakol, and you withhold all of those.
Okay, and this is only after the first year.
No, this is this is tax free. Yeah, right. Even in the first year. Uma shenishar revach achar nikui kol hahotzos, and that which remains as a profit after the withholding of all the expenditures, mikro revach. That's what we call profit.
I thought we said that on the first year you have to pay Karen.
Oh, sorry. You're right. This is, but presumably the what do you call it? Presumably for the Karen, unless Karen means something different. Unless Karen means the initial investment.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah. So certainly for the after year one, right? Okay. Of all hotzos beso, but your household expenditures lo yanake, you cannot deduct. Okay. And then this also partially answers the question that you asked Yosef about debt. Let's say this guy makes a profit of 1,000 zehuvim in a year. Nosin mea omasayim letzedakah. He has to give 100 or 200 for tzedakah. Even if he spent more than 1,000, I guess he's not in debt. Even though he spent more than 1,000 zehuvim for his house. Okay. In other words, he can't say, well, I got a zero profit because I made $1,000 and I spent $1,000 on my renovations. He still has to give a tenth from the profit. Only that which is tzedakah in the hotzah. But only that which is tzedakah in the expenditures in his household expenses. I'm not familiar with this, that they would give out bread on Mondays and Thursdays.
So people came
I guess so. From the right. I guess so. O nasan prutos l'aniyim, or giving coins to the aniyim. O nasan lecho eze yom libnei Talmud Torah, right? Or giving a certain day for the bnei Talmud Torah, right? So I think Olakach oreach ani al Shabbos or Suda biyom kederach bnei Yisrael. Okay, so I think hosting Talmid Chachamim for Suda
or Aniyim.
Yeah, right. Yachol lenakos mechal Maaser. You can deduct that or withhold it from Maaser. Aval hahotzos banav ubenos aktanim, but what you spend on your young sons and daughters. Alpha gav the darshinan v'oset tzedakah b'chol ace. Even though we say those who do tzedakah at all times. Zeh hazan banav ubenos v'kshein ketanim. And the Gemara says that refers to people who feed their kids, okay, when they're young. Mikol makom ein zeh bichlal tzedakah. That's not included in actual tzedakah. That's like philosophical tzedakah, I guess. V'al tzad hadrash amru. This go on longer than we need. Let's just finish this so we can go back to the Rambam tomorrow. Chalila lachshov zeh bichlal tzedakah. V'al tzad hadrash amru chachamim zal klomer dgam zo zeh mitzvah. Chazal said that as a drush, that this is also a mitzvah. Chalila lachshov zeh bichlal tzedakah. God forbid that that's included in tzedakah. Dim lo kein la'olam lo yagia la'aniyim ach prut achas. Because if everyone's feeding their own household is counted as tzedakah, then no poor people would ever get money. That's an exaggeration.
Though, right? Meaning like, if your kids are gedolim,
I think he'll probably, let's see if he talks about that. I think that might count as tzedakah though. Let's see. The af hamagadel b'nei banav b'nei benosav o benosehem. I don't know. I think he means even after they are. Oh yeah, right. B'nei banav. Yeah, even if someone who's raising his grandkids or his doctrinal grandkids. That's not a word. Nearly she eno yachol lachshov zeh bichlal tzedakah mi-maaser. You still can't count that. Ubnei banim harihem kabanim. Your grandchildren are like children. About hamagado yasom yasoma. But if you're raising an orphan, mi-mishpachto o shalom mi-mishpachto, either from your family or another family, vade shuhu tzedakah gedola. That's a big tzedakah. V'yachshov zeh mi-maas maaser. You can count that as maaser. V'im huchrach laseis ezet tzedakah miruba. If you have to give a huge amount of tzedakah, shadayin ein berevach shlo kol kach maaser, that there is not in your profit that much in terms of the tenth. Yachol litin v'lilvos al smach revach shirviach acharkach. You can still give and then borrow from the total of profit that you're going to profit later on. This seems very, very complicated.
No,
he's saying you can if you are, let's say someone really needs a huge amount of tzedakah and you've already given the amount that you have set aside from your Maaser. I think he's saying you can borrow from the future profits to give more. I think that's what he's saying, right?
Can't you give to a chomesh?
Yeah, let's say it's more than a chomesh though.
Okay, more than a chomesh.
That's what I'm assuming.
Does that mean that like later on you can subtract all?
I think so. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You're borrowing from the future. Yeah. Then you can withhold that and put it in your pocket. I'm not sure what that case is, but then I just wanted to read one thing. So when I was verifying I wanted to see, you never know when the Aruch Shulchan or any poster for that matter says that this is like a majority opinion. Like you always have to take that with a grain of salt because people say that. So I looked at this summary from YU and they summarize this. I just want to read 2 paragraphs here and then we'll stop. So he says that there's Gemara Tainus that says you shall tithe all the seed crop. This is interpreted to mean that the concept of tithing applies. This is Rabbi Stein. I don't know who that is. This is interpreted to mean that this concept of tithing applies not only to crops and agricultural produce, but to all forms of profit and financial earnings. The fact that tithing earnings is mentioned in the context of tithing produce leads the Tosfos Chadashim and later the Taz to suggest that tithing earnings is an obligation just like tithing produce. According to their position, Maaser Kesafim is the annual and broader financial equivalent of Maaser Ani, the pauper's tithe, which is the requirement to set aside 1/10 of the produce grown every 3rd and 6th year of the Shemitah cycle to be distributed to the poor. Now, here's what the Aruch Shulchan summarized. The Taz notes that his father-in-law, the Bach, which I did not know that was the father-in-law. I had no idea they were related. Okay. Disagrees and writes that the notion of tithing earnings is merely a praiseworthy custom, but not a formal obligation. This is also the position of the Maharam in Rotenberg, cited in the Mishlei Tshuva, and the prevailing opinion of the vast majority of contemporary poskim. The Chidah explains that according to these authorities, the entire institution of Maaser Kesafim is not part of the regular system of tithing, but rather represents the recommended amount of tzedakah charity that each person should give on a yearly basis. This view, what?
No, there was a 3 by the majority of poskim. I want to know.
I think we'll look at the end of the article.
Yeah.
This view is supported by the fact that Maaser Kesafim is presented by the Shulchan Aruch in Yoreh 249.1, Siman, in the context of the general obligation to give tzedakah, whereas the Shulchan Aruch writes, under ordinary circumstances, 1/5 of one's property is most laudable. To give 1/10 is the average disposition, but to give anything less than 1/10 is stingy. So basically, this whole network of the Aruch Shulchan and the Rambam, who don't talk, well, the Rambam doesn't talk about Maaser Kesafim. He just talks about it as a recommended value for regular tzedakah. That does seem to be the majority of the contemporary poskim, according to this summary article, which I will look at footnote 3, is therefore the Chavetz Chaim recommends that when giving Maaser Kesafim for the first time, we should stipulate and have in mind, that we are only doing so voluntarily without any intention to accept a vow to do so in the future, because it's like a recommended practice, not a obligation. Similarly, if we mistakenly thought that Maaser Kesafim was a formal obligation and later discovered that it is only a minhag, we would not have to abrogate or renounce our vow, since the oath was taken under false pretenses, right? That's the halacha, that if you think something is the halacha and you do it 3 times, like I think I gave this example earlier, that when I came here, the yeshiva's minhag back then was to fast on for half a day on Erev Rosh Hashanah, and people talked about it as though that was like plain like Ikar Din. So I like did that for years. And then one day I was like, no one's doing this anymore. And they're like, yeah, it's a minhag that like, it's a, I didn't have to do Hatar and Darim because I took it upon myself thinking it was actual halacha. Additionally, since Maaser Kesafim is generally treated as a minhag and not a formal obligation, the parameters and limits of the minhag might not have rigidly defined or universal rules. Rather, at least to a certain degree, each person's minhag might be shaped by their own mindset and specific assumptions when they initially undertook to separate Maaser. Right. So I've taken the lazy approach because I'm really bad when it comes to like money things. Like I'm not in terms of I'm very not spend not miserly is the wrong word. Like I don't like spending money on things unless it's necessary. Frugal, thank you. Yeah, frugal. And then when it comes to tzedakah, I just give until I know that I'm like giving more than I need to. Like I don't do this whole thing of like deducting all the stuff and then so I was always wondering in the back of my mind, like, am I just like making stuff up? But he's saying that since it's all midos, like midos based anyway, then like there is room for a certain personal practice.
I would say that for Maaser Kesafim, it's every 3rd and 6th year. Also.
I don't know. Like I haven't looked at the Taz's.
General, does he mean like?
Yeah, unclear to me, and I haven't seen it inside the Taz. So we can look at that.
That was up one.
Thank you, Taz. Up 2. Taz. In Yoreh 331:32. You want to quickly look at that? 331. Yeah, you don't have to if you don't want to. 331:32. 331:32. The Taz. 32. As says. Oh, that's long. Let's not do that now. Yeah. All right. So we edit tomorrow. Let's go back to the Rambam. Okay. But I think that was good to do. Okay. Have a good day.